Now then, it's been a bit, hasn't it? It's been a good couple of weeks at our end here, maybe 3 or 4. And the reason for that is long and complicated, but basically I've been working on a buyback deal with Land Rover for this Defender Finn, which is proving to be more problematic than you'd imagine, really, one thing and another. But any road, they've been very, very steady in responding, and it sort of dragged the process out a bit. And a couple of target vehicles that they had to move into are now, they've now gone and sold, and so we've been looking for other things, but that's not gone very well either. And I've had a document from Jaguar Land Rover which is basically a gag order, and what they've actually said is that if I want them to buy this back in virtue of its repeated and sort of regular occurring faults, then I'm going to need to sign this gag order, and this gag order prohibits me from saying anything negative about the company or the vehicles forever. And it sounds, I'm trying to find confirmation, but it sounds like I've got to take the videos down as well, in virtue of them constituting sort of some aspects of negativity towards the company. So it might look like those videos have to come down too. So that's one of the reasons I haven't really put any more effort into making any more videos. But it looks like, if I am to replace this car, it looks like I'm going to have to drive to BC in order to find one, because there aren't any in Alberta, and BC's a long way. So I have spoke to a couple of tuning companies in order to try and find out if there's any option to make the vehicle more controlled, I guess is the word I would use, in virtue of the fact that Jaguar Land Rover can't seem to fix the throttle pedal issue. Would have been really obvious to me to have tried a new throttle pedal switch, but Jaguar Land Rover don't seem to do that. But anyway, that's another story. So in virtue of that, I've reached out to a couple of these, what do they call them, plug and gay sort of pedal box things, and one of the companies that I've approached is TDI Tuning from Blighty. A very nice chap called Dominic has been helping me out resolve some of the dramas, and he's sent me a bit of a fancy thing, and I'm going to show you about that in a minute. I've got it on the bench, and we'll do a box opening, and then we'll try and install it. And the reason that I want to have a look at this is because it promises about a 30%, 20 to 30% increase in fuel economy, and seeing as this is doing about 15 miles to the gallon, that's not actually very much, is it? But we'll just see what it can do. And the other response is more less sensitivity in the pedal and more controlled function, which is one of the things I'm sort of looking for, really, seeing as Land Rover don't want to engage that problem. But anyway, I'm not my normal eubolic self here, because I'm still bothered by this gag order, being a Land Rover enthusiast for 30 something years, and then being told by the company that you've always cherished and been part of. I mean, I used to drink beer with Spen King back in the day, and I'd hate to think what he'd think about what this is, but so I'm a bit upset, really, that Land Rover's response to dealing with this particular vehicle here and the dramas that they've shown. Actually, the other day, sunroof wouldn't close. That's another thing that was cropped up. Just wouldn't close. I had it open because I hit that global open thing, and by mistake, and I couldn't get it to close. It'd close, and then it'd pop up again and close and pop up again and close and pop up again. Anyway. So Land Rover's response to dealing with that is to take my vehicle back at basically a trade-in amount, which means I'd be losing 40 grand, and then for me to sign a gag order which says I can't talk about any of the issues or any of the other issues or anything I've ever had or anything I ever will have. It's a very pernicious sort of document. At some stage I'll do a video on it, and I'll show you excerpts of it, which is a bit awkward. I mean, a version of that has been shown on another video, oddly enough, down in Australia. Some fella that I don't know at all, but it seems that the same is sort of expected from Land Rover Australia, this sort of gag, this NDA thing, and the story there was that the difference between the trade-in and the Land Rover's buyback was only £3,000. Well, mine's £9,000, which is a little bit more, but it's still not very much. Curiously enough, I took this up to Jaguar Land Rover in Calgary and asked for a trade-in value. This vehicle, almost exactly 12 months ago, cost me $112,000 Canadian dollars, and they've offered me 60 in trade on another car. Now I'll let you figure that out, but that's me nearly losing nearly half. It's nearly 50% depreciation in a year, and I was told that it would depreciate no more than 35% in 4 years, which was what was told me when I bought the thing, and was one of the conditions on which I bought it. But anyway, that's another story. Right, moving on, this pedal box from TDI Tuning is a very nice affair, and we'll just pop back in here and I'll get the cameras jigged up, and then we'll open the box and we'll have a bit of a chat about it. Right, here we are. This is a box here from it's a bit beaten up, and I did speak to Dominic about that, and he apologised, and it wasn't really his fault, because the bag in which it came in from FedEx was a bit beaten up, as you can see. So it's clearly not his fault, but FedEx. Now, I've never had any luck shipping anything with FedEx. It's always been a complete drama, and I've ended up having to pay all sorts of different amounts of monies to get things, and it's always been late. And I wanted to ship a watch to America, and it took 2 weeks, and they lost it, and that was a big, long and complicated thing. So I don't like FedEx. My preference is with DHL, but that's another story. Anyway, so this is the result of FedEx's quality shipping. But this is a box from TDI Tuning, as you can see. It's very nice. Would be very nice if it wasn't beaten up. TDI is one of those, TDI Tuning are one of those, I don't think they'd prefer to be called a pedal box, but I suppose we would know it as a pedal box system, wouldn't we? I think that's what we're, how we sort of describe them, I guess. And won't sit flat, that, you stay there. What it is it is a plug-in play thing. It's not a mapping of any sort of a description, and when you open the box here, here's your I suppose this is what you would call your pedal box, but here's your control unit. What it does is it accepts signals being sent to the ECM from your engine and other bits of various parts of it, and it adjusts them slightly to enable the engine to operate at its optimal performance. And the reason that it currently doesn't operate at its optimal performance is because vehicle manufacturers sort of engage some software that sort of alters the way it performs, really, in terms of the mapping and the which is my concern about the P400 in the Defender. Is it's what I've said for a long time, is all mapped wrong, at least mine is. And this pedal box here promises to map it better, basically, because the potential and the capability are in the engine to be sort of better sort of functioning and more control and all that sort of stuff. And it just needs a bit of help, basically. At least this is what they say according to TDI. Now, TDI Tuning are a British company based in sort of Chelmsford here, and you can follow them on Instagram, you know, the usual sorts of things, Instagram, and let's put this up this way. I don't know which way I'm going to do it yet, but anyway, I'll put it up this way. Now, you can find them on Facebook and YouTube. I have got some. I'll pop it up on the bottom of the screen somewhere. But this is the information that you can contact them with, and this is the instruction manual of how to operate this little box. Now, the one I've purchased is the Bluetooth version of it, and they do a non-Bluetooth version. But I wanted to be able to sort of set the thing. I've no intention of messing about with it, because as you probably know from what you know of me, I'm not a sort of a speed demon. I don't want it be fast, and I don't want to be up and down the settings. I just want the throttle pedal to be controllable, and I want the car to be able to drive properly, and I want the car to be more fuel efficient, which it absolutely isn't anyway. So the Bluetooth functionality of it is probably a bit lost on me, but I should say that TDI Tuning if I put the picture this way, and I probably will. The TDI tuning have helped me out here with the price of the thing, so they offered me a 25% deduction if I did a video on the thing, and this is the video of the thing, as you were. And I'm hoping, I mean, I spoke to Damien, who's a very nice chap, sorry, Dominic, who's a very nice chap. This is the instruction booklet. I don't know if I'm going to be able to flick it this way, and in here is, you know, the care of the unit and how you operate the unit, and what you sort of need in order to do so, and how the box itself operates, and how you sort of screw it all together. Some notes in the back and whatever, and they're very communicative, so if you want to get in touch with them, they are very communicative. This is your bundle bag of you know, wiring harnesses, and basically you just plug one of these into the unit on the engine, and then put this into the device itself, the sensor, and then this bit obviously plugs into the back of the tuning box, and away you go. So it's a very simple sort of thing. I don't really know I'm going to be able to do this, but here we go. This is just a piece of paper showing you the cost. I suppose this is what you want to see here, bottom bit, the price here, look. Now, I did get 25% off because I did promise to do an install, and this is what I've got and what I'm going to do. And this is the bit that does all the work, really. This is a very handy kind of instruction sheet, both sides, that tells you how to and where to plug in. So basically there's just two boost units here, and you just intercept them. Basically you just slide this harness in the way, and that's it basically. But they have issued sorts of information on turning the vehicle off and on, and how you meant to do it, so that the vehicle itself powers down, so you don't cause any drama. So one of the things it says here is that you've got open the bonnet of the car, close all the doors, and then take the key away. And the reason for that is because that while the key is still in proximity to the car, it doesn't actually go into sleep properly. So that's one of the things you've got to do. Here it says here, leave the vehicle for 5 minutes to allow it to shut down. So that's that plan. And so I've popped the bonnet on the car, and it's all sort of ready to go. Land Rover. It's all sort of ready to go, and I've just got to sort of pop this harness in between those two plugs and then fire it up. Right, first job apparently is to pull off this cover. Now, I haven't touched this since Land Rover last had this the vehicle in, and you can see that it's not been put on, has it? And the reason for that is because under here are little rubber chaps, and you can see here that I've got 1, 2, 3, and one rubber chap is missing, and that happened when Land Rover had it last. These, you can see the hole here. Perhaps if I do it this way, you can see the hole here, because these little rubber dudes fit onto these little pimples. And this one's missing because Jaguar Land Rover lost it, so I have asked them to replace it, but we did get into taking the vehicle back, in which case it's all their problem anyway. Now, here's my pedal box. I'll just put this down here for now, and the first thing says as a fuel recommended thing here, but there's basically a switch up here. So one of these up here, somewhere up there I think is a boost plug, and we'll have to find that. That's number 1, and then boost number 2 appears down here somewhere, and that's much easier to get at. That's just tucked underneath here. I don't know if you wanted to just come round, Taryn, because it's blocked under here. Taryn's very kindly agreed to sort of, so this one would be the second one, and the first one, I'm guessing, boost 1 it says is up, only it's underneath here. So this is a side on. This photograph here is a side on view, sort of a bit like if you wanted to just look at the yeah, I think it's this way on, you see. So I think this here is the top of here. Yeah. So okay, we'll do boost 1 it says here, but I don't and I'm assuming there must be a, oh yeah, there's a thing on here, look, boost 1, I'm assuming is that. So when you look at these here, there's a sort of a, I guess, a guide here which tells you which you're doing. So we'll do boost 1 first, and I'll have to come round where you are, Darren, which will be a bit tricky to get at that one, isn't it? Oh yeah, you do see it. So it's best to get at it through here, although you do have to have tiny Oliver hands, tiny Oliver twist hands to get at it. And it says press the little button, but like I sort of anticipated, that perhaps we should have tried looking at the easy one to get at first. Oh, there we go, press that. There's a little click when it happens. Yeah, there you are. So the trick is to get your nail on the flat part of the connector, and then flick it back with your nail, and then you can press the button down and drag it back. Now boost 1, where's that? B1. It looks like this would be able to go in either way up because the plug's the same, so you're going to have to be careful which way you put it. One of them's got obviously a latch, and the other one's got a location plug, location sort of knob. And it's important because if you look in there, it's important you can get it both, you know, you can put the plug in upside down, if you see what I mean. So I'm guessing it must be quite important, just plug that in the right road round. We'll go in this way. Oh, I think this one's going a bit worse, won't Gareth, isn't it? There you go. And then we'll push that back, and then the other half of it, which is here, that one can only go in one way, and that goes into that little, holy, it's not made for fat hands like mine. Oh. Where's the other end gone? Oh, here we are. That's good. No, I know. Darren's just saying she can't see to help, and that's very true. So you won't have to just take me word for it that I'm poking around it right. I think now they've done a good job of getting that camera in there. But right, well that appears to be in position. How? Well, that's the result. Right, now boost 2 is under this pipe here, and you can see it right here. So if Taryn can come round, I will show you. So what I did at the back, I should have perhaps started here first, is that this thing here, I got my thumb underneath it and I just slid it back. You can just see, can't you, it's coming. It's easier to do with your thumbnail, but I can't. There you go, did you see it? And then this one, you just press this little pin here somehow, and then it all pops out like that. So that's easier, that one's easier. Now we're going to thread this carefully because obviously I want it to be useful somewhere, to be, you know, fit. So I'm just going to send this here, and again we're back to the difficulty with which way to put this. So, and here's to show you, this is obviously your latch mechanism, and the latch pawl would need to fit underneath this red plug. On the other side you've got a location plug. Once again, it'd be possible to put this in upside down, but I don't think it'd connect. Make sure that this is the right road round, put that in, there's a nice little clip, slide that little locking tab forwards, and then this chap, this is the one that you shove back into the whatever it is that you're plugging this into, the boost thing. There we go. Now they have done this, I am told, on a you know, a production vehicle. So this is, I'll probably tie these up because I'm never really a big fan of these. I'm never really a big fan of these sorts of things. So that's there, that's right. So that's that. Now this next bit, this bit obviously plugs into the boost unit, which is here, and I'm assuming that only goes in one way. Yeah, so you've got two guides here and then one on that side, and it can only go in one way. It won't fit the other way, will it? No, it'll only go in one way. So there we go. Pull that dude out, slide it in. It's one of those, this latching mechanism here is related to the one that used to be on the back of the LR3s, and they were a disaster. In fact, Taryn and I got stuck, do you remember, Taryn, in Tahoe? Because this kind of a plug with this affair here was on the back of the dumb irons on the back of the Land Rover, and all of the grounds, all of the neutrals for the fuel pump and everything are routed through that plug there. And over time and the miles, it had just started to come loose, and the ground for the fuel pump had failed, and ended up me thinking there was no fuel pump. So we had a bit of a drama trying to find a fuel pump, but that's another story. Right, so here we are. We've got this bit of an affair here, and this is clearly not an easy thing to hide somewhere. There's a bunch of wires out here. There's an actual coil to the wire, which sort of makes you want to put it down here, but I don't like messing with all this sort of stuff. Perhaps it'll go there nicely. Right, so here we are. What we've done in the end, this is a bit of a drama here, and I'm not doing the best of the job here with this gimbal, but we fastened this corner in here, and then we run it underneath the back, and then the other cable obviously comes in from underneath here, and then that runs up along the side here, and then you can see we've fastened the box to this side piece here. Now I'm going to show you a little video here. It'll pop up in the side. This is the Bluetooth version of this, and we haven't been able to connect the Bluetooth functionality to the box. You are meant to, there's a bit of a code that's written just underneath here, a serial number, and you're meant to type in that serial number, and you'll see in a bit. And that hasn't worked for one reason or other, and we've tried a bunch of things and we can't get it to work at all. So what you can do, of course, the Bluetooth function only permits you to sort of plus or minus by your phone, if you see what I mean. This is set on 4 here, is what it came with, and the car does start up and hasn't sort of really, doesn't sound any different or anything so far, but I guess we'll just see how we go on. In fact, what I'll do now is I'll just start the car for you, and then you'll see and hear, I suppose, won't you? Obviously, I haven't done anything with it just yet to figure out whether or not it has saved me any fuel economy or drives any different. Really, I've just sort of connected it up and got the cables out of the way. So I'm going to run it just take it on a test trip now, and we'll see how we go on, I guess. I said in my last video that we'd be going off that evening to test it out on power level 1, and that was the case. And I set up this fancy GoPro here to do some I don't know what you call it really, ride and drive sort of stuff. But the reality is that when I imported the video to me thing computer that night, I couldn't hear a thing because it was that loud. It was windy as, but it weren't really windy. That was one of the funny things about living in Alberta. We had a 19 km/h wind from the north, which isn't very much, as you can imagine, and there were some gusts set up to about 27 km/h, but broadly speaking it wasn't very windy at all. Anyway, by the time we got it home, all you could hear from this GoPro camera was noise from the wind up the windscreen and all that sort of thing. So I decided that what I needed to do was also record on here, which is something perhaps you can see, but this is me camera, and I'm just using my microphone here on my lapel, hoping that this will cut out some of the wind noise. I don't know whether it will. We'll have to. Anyway, where was it? Right, so we did take it on a test drive on power level 1, and I actually did do a test drive on power level 4 as well. And what I should tell you is that TDI Tuning suggests that you run it on power level 4 when you first put it in for about 40 or 50 miles. And the reason for that, they say, is that most cars have like an ECU that kind of needs remapping a bit when you tweak things, and 40 or 50 miles, they say, is about enough miles for that to sort of reprogram at power level 4 and get used to all the parameters. Well, on the night I installed it, it got dark pretty quick, and we did do 60 something miles, 66 miles I think we did, at power level 4, just letting that ECU settle in. And then last night I did a bunch of miles at power level 1, and I'm doing some miles now at power level 1, and I'll explain more about the power levels in a minute. But what we noticed was that at power level 4 there's definitely more torque and I'm not going to say responsiveness from the pedal, because mine's a bit 10100, which is why I'm installing this unit to begin with. But what we did notice is more power and more torque, really. Well, certainly more torque, but we didn't notice any difference in fuel, really. Actually, it's gone down. I've driven it today, probably, I bet you have done about 60 mile now, at power level 1, and that's meant to be one of the economic modes, the eco modes, what they call, and they're meant to be, you know, it's meant to give you about 20% more fuel efficiency. But I've noticed here, like, it's gone down from 19.1 miles to the gallon to 17.2 miles to the gallon, so it's gone down by quite a bit in sort of 120 miles or so. So there has been noticeable difference. What I'm going to do is I'll pop up on the screen, I'll pop up the eco. I've taken a snapshot of the eco mode thing from the Pivi Pro here, and I'll show you what we did the first night, which was at power level 4, and that was with very little wind. And then I'll take another screenshot, or I have taken another screenshot of what happened at power level 1 with a 19 kilometre an hour when we went east and west with a 19 kilometre an hour northerly wind, and you'll see that the fuel efficiency started to deteriorate. And now I don't actually know what the wind is today, but they have been heading west here. I'm actually going to Vancouver to have a look at another discovery. So it's a rum country, this, the way you've got to travel 1,000 miles, have a look at the car. I don't know what to tell you. You can buy any amount of Chevys you like here, but I don't want to buy a Chevy for lots of different reasons. Anyway, so I'm driving west here. I've done about 60 mile, I guess, here, and the fuel economy is at 17.2 now, which isn't good, is it? As you can imagine, I haven't been tanking it. I've only been doing about 110, but it has been. I'm not going to say it's windy. I did take, in this other video, I did explain that in southern Alberta, this wind's a funny phenomenon. When you drive west, the predominant wind comes from the west, and when you drive west, you tend to like that you're hitting headwind. That's not really how it is, because you sort of expect, if you've got headwind, you're sort of expecting that, you know, you can feel it and see it in trees, and you really can't. It's like hitting a brick wall. It's not that there's a wind, it's just that there's a presence, and it's hard to push into it. You're just pushing into headwind all the time, and it's actually quite hard work, really, and it must be quite hard work for a car as well. So that having been said, he says, using the ablative absolute, those of you who remember your Latin will remember the ablative absolute. That having been said, like the fuel economy has been lower today, I think 17.2 here, and there has been, even though it's not really an headwind, there has been a presence, and you can see here a bit, perhaps you can't because you're not looking, are you, but there's a bit of headwind in the trees here. You can see that there is a bit of movement going about, so here perhaps more than normal we're going to see this kind of loss of fuel economy, and so it's a bit what I'm trying to say is it's a bit unfair to tell you whether or not it's made any difference because there's a headwind. Now, as I've said, I'm heading out towards the Vancouver here to go and have a look at the Discovery. I'm at a bit of a dilemma because I don't know whether to spend the money on the diesel that I've been talking about, or buy a petrol which is cheaper, but of course has the drama of having less fuel efficiency and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I'll discuss that in another matter. But what I'm planning to do here is when I start running out of fuel here, I'll do 300 and something kilometres, or 400 miles, sorry, 300 and something mile in this. I'll tank up, and what I'll do then is I'll move to Power 7. Now, this is where I'm going to talk about the powers. This pedal box from Tuning, TDI Tuning, has got 7 settings. Well, that's that many fingers. And the 7 settings range from 1 to 7, and so far as I can gather, the increase in power. So 1 and 2 and 3 are quite what they call the eco modes, and they give you apparently a little bit more of a torque curve, but don't increase the power very much. Now that's what I wanted. I don't care about power. Power's, well, brake horsepower is not really that important to me. I don't want to go fast. I want this to be controlled and have more torque. I want it to be less revvy and less annoying. And what I mean by less annoying is lots and lots of rev. I get nothing but rev. It's really annoying. It's just all rev and there's no guts to it. There's no sort of power you can feel. There's nothing in the engine. It's just noise and that's it. And I mean, it's fast, but it's fast in a way that's not really very useful or practical or comfortable. I read just recently a review of the Volkswagen Atlas. I was looking at an Audi e-tron the other day, that's why it's in my head. But no, this Volkswagen Atlas, and some guy in the reviewer said it's dreadful. It's the worst car I've ever driven. The throttle pedal mapping's all over the place. There's no power in the engine. It's all rev and all noise, and no power and no actual gruts. And when I drive this, it's like that. It's like there's just lots of noise and lots of rev and you get the feeling that he wouldn't pull a greasy stick out of a dog's bum, as they say back home. I was sliding into that metaphor and wished I hadn't, but I've said it now. Any road. And my L322, you could feel it had got grunt, it had got power, but it had got substance as well. Now in one, I haven't tried 2 or 3, but in one you can definitely feel there's more torque. Just come past a car, past there, a big truck, a double, and I put my foot into it, and you could feel the grunt in a way that you couldn't feel it before. And so if nothing else, this pedal box has really improved the sensation of driving in a way that gives it more bottle, gives it more grunt. It seems like it's got more substance. Now this device is quite a lot of money. It's about 400 quid, I think, or $400 or something. It is 200. I've told you in the beginning, I showed you the invoice, I paid £231, I think, for the Bluetooth model. And the Bluetooth isn't working, and I have heard back from them, and they're swapping the unit out now because apparently there's a bit of an issue with it and it should just be able to connect. Well, I've tried it on my phone and I've tried it on my iPad, and that's not how it is. I can't connect, I can't at all. Anyway, they're sending a fresh one out, so that's grand. And so ignoring the Bluetooth, which might just be an odd one off, is it worth the $200 and something to get that? Well, it's turned it into a car that you can drive. Why Land Rover can't do this, I don't know. It's not like they haven't had chance. I have told them to switch the throttle pedal sensor itself to see if that'll fix that issue, and I have provided them with lots of suggestions on how to make the mapping better, but nobody seems to pay any attention to me. But this guy here, this Dominic fella, managed to program this little giggle box here, and it does all, and he's like, even I'm trying it on 7, yeah. 7's the level that you should use if you're going towing heavy things, or they have suggested if you're going in the mountains or in California or something, they say use 7 and give you lots of play. Well, I don't want to play with it. I mean, the power might be handy, all that torque might be handy when you're towing something, but I ain't a speed demon. I don't want it to be fast. It's fast enough. I want it to be controlled, and I want it to have some guts. Any road. So 4's made all the world of difference. When I run this tank out, I'll try 7 and we'll report back from that. But up to now, what I would say is there's probably I'd say it's about 40% better with this pedal box, and I'm not saying that because they've knocked me a bit off it to try. I'm just telling you that's what it is. It's 40% better. It's got all the guts it should have, and you can feel there was something a bit funny about it, really. Having driven so many things over my life, you can kind of tell when something's got more about it. You know, I suppose it's a function of. Many years ago, here's the story, many years ago, I used to have a Land Rover Defender 90. Registration plate was D853 UDM, and it had a turbo diesel. I could have told you number of engine if I'd have just had a thunk about it, but anyway, turbo started playing up with it, and I had turbo changed, and I had this fella fix the fuel pump while he were at it. It was in the time when I didn't really have time to be fixing things, and I was working as a diesel engineer at the time, and this fella lived round the corner, and I just swatted to him one night and I said, here, put it on, I don't have time. I think I was farming at the time, but diesel engineering, but farming at night time, I didn't have time. So I said, here, fix it. And he fixed it, and he charged me £1,000 to fix it. I remember this, I were only young, I were about 18 or something, 19. And I got in it and he wouldn't go. I felt he wouldn't go, and I drove it back to him and I said, it's not right. He said, well, we've done everything according to plan. I said, it's not right. It's all right, it goes better than this. It can go better. No, he says, that's as good as it goes. Says, no, it's not right. And I tuned it, and I couldn't get it much better either. And so one day I went to my mate in Martin at Land Ranger Services in Adswood when he still had the place, and I said, I'm fed up with the bloody thing. I put the new pump on it, and new turbo, and it won't go. Won't go. I can feel it won't go. It's not right. It's got more. It was better before it had all this drama. And he said, oh, you should take it round to this chap, this diesel fella. Anyway, I did while I was at work one day at Merleys. I took it round and dumped it with him and said, here, sort that out. And I picked it up that night, and he were right. And you can feel, you know, when you get used to an engine, and you can feel they've got more, or it's capable of more. And this box does that. It somehow magically fixes all the muppetry that Land Rover have shoved into it, and it makes it better. Now, it's not right. It's bloody thirsty, still revvy, and it's not right, but it is a lot better. It's 40% better, I'd say. And so if you were planning on keeping your dreadful P400 because you can't get out of it like I can't, and you've got to be stuck with the thing, I don't know that this giggle box, this pedal box or whatever they want to call it, I don't know that that's going to make your fuel economy magically better, and it needs to, because I've got a friend here, his name's Ben, shout out to Ben, Top Banana Ben. He's just bought a very pretty blue Defender. It's a lovely thing, nice thing. I've got a photograph, actually, I'll show you a photograph. Finn and his blue Defender parked up at Calgary side by side. And he's just come back from BC, he's come up the road, and he's managed to get a top quality fuel economy of 15 litres per 100 kilometres. Now, I don't know what that is. Bad, I would say, is what that is. And he posted that on Instagram, and he said, Land Rover need to do better. It's a P300 and he's only doing 15 litres per 100 kilometres. And then he said he's got a pal with a Dodge Ram with a 5.3 litre Hemi engine in that comes back and does better than that, and he's got a point. If Dodge Ram can get their 2.5 ton Blenheim Palace to fly back from Vancouver with a 5.3 litre Hemi engine in it, V8, with a better fuel economy than a P300, which has a displacement of 3 litres or 2 litres or whatever it does, if they can get that bloody grey thing to do better on fuel than Land Rover can with a little 2 litre engine, there's something wrong. It's not right. And Ben's having the same experience, and there's lots of people the world over that have got the P400 that aren't getting very good fuel economy. I've got another friend, Hector, Top Banana from down south in the Florida. Great fellow. He's driving up to Alaska, I think, at some stage next year. Nice guy. And he's been on a bit of a road trip, and he's sent me some fuel figures. He can sometimes get 12 miles to the gallon and sometimes get 16 miles to the gallon. But, I mean, I didn't get as much. I got 18 miles to the gallon out of my 3.5 litre SU carburetted Range Rover Classic built in 1981, driving out here at 40 years old. If I can get 18 out of that, how can I not get 18 out of this? I just don't understand. Well, I do understand. There's something very drastically awfully wrong, and Land Rover need to do something about it. It ain't right. Anyway, I'm going on a ramble here, but this fella, this TDI tuning chap, he's obviously he's done something and he's made it better. I don't know that it's made the fuel that much better, but it has made the drive better. It actually feels nice now. What I can say is that this vehicle has a surging that happens on cruise control, and I have shown, and I'll slide in here a little video of that happening. And what I've done is I've taken some sensor data of the engine load, and you can see that instead of a very gentle, I'll have to do it this way, instead of a gentle curve as the power is needed to, if you're going up a bit of an hill to increase the speed a bit, what you get is a very sharp loading of the engine and then a very quick tailing off, because of course it doesn't need that much power application. It just needs a gentle power application to help it come, but it's not capable. This is what I've been saying about this vehicle. It's not capable of making controlled progressive throttle increases. Just can't do it. And you can see the spikes in the graph. I'll show it here. It'll be at the side here somewhere. Or zoom, as it were, you'll see this. You'll see the spikes, and this giggle box, this tuning box, has a little bit of it's made the matter a bit worse, really, because it's giving it a bit more torque, and because it's giving it a bit more power, that surge is more noticeable, because when the engine becomes loaded, obviously all that power kicks in, and it kicks in a lot. So the one downside of this box is it's made that sort of surging a little bit more noticeable. Not vastly noticeable, and it is, ironically, it's a little better in position 4 than it is in position 1, because I guess position 1 increases the torque and not the power, and 4 balances them both or something at any road. Anyway, that's where I am now. I'm going to finish this bit of a video-y thing, and then at some stage when I fuel up, I'll do a short piece to camera about position 7, and I'll tell you what I think about that. But basically speaking, 230 quid gets you a car that acts a little bit more like it should do, has a bit more torque, is a lot nicer to drive, is a lot friendlier on the foot, but does emphasise that surging. There you go. Now then, I'm back. What I had hoped, and actually did start to do, was I was going to record a video on the way back through the mountains, because it's very pretty, but I was a spirited drive back because I'd stayed an extra day in Vancouver, more than I wanted to. And so I did billy up on the way back, and I managed to make it from Vancouver to Lethbridge in 8 hours and 34 minutes. I'll let you do the math. But that ended up being quite a spirited drive, and as a result I ended up coming through the mountains that I was going to share with you in video form while it was still dark, basically, because I travelled through the night, and that was less good than I wanted to. The other problem was that when I did start to record a video when we ended up in the prairies where the sunrise was, what happened was that my SIM card was full on the GoPro, and it sort of died in the middle of recording and didn't save the video, so I couldn't patch anything together. Anyway, I'm back, as you can see, and I just wanted to debrief on the results of the rest of the trip. So what I did was I did stop and put it into power level 7, as mentioned earlier on in this video, and the result of that was that it did, as sort of predicted, emphasise the surging that I experienced as a function of this vehicle's programming and mapping, and it surged to such an extent that it actually made me nauseated, and I had to stop, and I got out and I set it back down to 2. So I drove pretty much all the way into Vancouver with this set at power level 2. Now it is downhill almost all the way. In fact, it's downhill for 5,000 feet, I think. And there's obviously it's mountains, so there's ups and downs. And I recorded a fuel economy of 17.4 miles to the gallon when I got to Vancouver. Now, that's less good than its average, which was 18.8 over the last 5,000 miles, and I'll show you a couple of it, like screenshots of that. So I'd got 17.4 when I landed there, or something like that, and then I got this overall average of 18.5 miles to the gallon, including that 200 and whatever it was, 750 miles at 17.4. And so it has dropped my fuel economy, the fitting of this box, it has dropped it by 1 or so miles to the gallon, which is a bit disappointing, because there were two reasons I bought this box from TDI Tuning. The first reason was that I wanted it to improve the fuel economy, and it would be likely that if it increased the fuel economy from 19 to 22 or 23, then what I would have done is that would have offset some of the costs, and I might have considered keeping it. The other reason was that I was hoping it was going to remap this dodgy throttle position sensor, or dodgy mapping, or whatever it is in this Defender that makes it so uncontrollable. It's not, it's just a very poor engine in terms of kind of having power. You know, it's got all the power, but it's surges, and I'll show you the video that goes along with that to show you these little peaks. And the Power Level 7 did emphasise that. So after about 30 miles I did get out, and I stopped and I put it back to 2, and I drove all the way into Vancouver like that. Now when I got to Vancouver, I did actually find a vehicle that I wanted to buy, and the point of going to Vancouver was to see if a couple of vehicles that they got there were what I was looking for. And I ended up purchasing a 2018 Discovery 5 with an SI6 petrol engine in it, the V6 thing. And I bought that, and when I bought it, of course, I realised that I needed to take this box off for whatever reason, and I did do. I disconnected it there, and I drove all the way back without the box connected. And what I can tell you is that there was certainly a noticeable reduction in power as a function of the box increasing the torque and generally being better, really. But the downside, or the upside, depending which way you look at it, was that even though it was a spirited drive back, very spirited drive back, and even though I drove back in comfort setting rather than eco, it returned 18.3 miles to the gallon, which is a significant improvement on a very steady eco drive downhill at 17.4. There should have been no reason at Power Level 2 or 1 that it should have performed as poorly as that. In fact, it should have increased the fuel economy. So in terms of the claim of increasing the fuel economy, I didn't notice it, and in fact what I did notice was there was an observable and demonstrable decrease in fuel economy as a function of applying the box. Now, whether or not that's the box merely takes the faulty data from the sensors and then does something with that, and that's what causes it to be less fuel economical, I can't say. What I can say was that it certainly emphasised the surging that happened as a function of the way the vehicle operates, or the mapping, or the way it applies the power, as I mentioned earlier on. And so it's entirely possible that plugging this box in has just made the faulty part of this car worse. But anyway, whether it has or it hasn't, that's where we are. I got better fuel economy out of it on the way back, but less power. That being said, there was obviously, it's a P400 with a fairly significant level of torque, and I didn't notice that it was problematic. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Spirited Drive back was the best drive I've ever had in this car. And I think, I'm going to do another video on this, but I think a lot of people that remark on how good the P400 is do so because they're driving it quite aggressively or quite in a spirited manner, and you certainly don't notice any of the, or fewer of the issues when you drive back spiritedly. You know, when you drive it hard, it does perform very well. Handling in the corners is unparalleled, I think, for a vehicle of this size. So this little box is being taken back. This giggle box or pedal box or tuning box or whatever you want to call it is being taken back, and they have tried twice to come and pick it up, but for lots of different reasons I haven't been home when they've called, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it back to them, because they've kindly agreed to sort of swap it out, and I'm going to ask them if they can send me back one that's programmed for a V6, the SI6. They do one for the V6 and all, and so I'm going to ask them if they can send me that out. And then I'll do another video based upon installing it in the Discovery, and we can see and determine whether or not actually the faults on this vehicle are what causes that the box to poorly behave, or at least not meet the reported fuel return figures and so on. So that's the plan for that car, and I'll release those videos when the swap's done and the install's done and so on and so forth, and then we'll take it from there. But what I can say really in conclusion is that this box didn't fix the issues that I'd wanted to fix, which was the poor throttle mapping issues and the fuel economy issues. In fact, it made both of them worse. It does give you a more torquey and responsive sort of driving feel, which is appreciated even on this, and that's basically it really. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for liking and subscribing my videos. Please feel free to ask some comments if you've got out ask, and I'll do my best to answer them. Now, as I've just revealed, Finn is going to be sold back, well, not back to Land Rover, it's going to be sold, and I'll be picking up a D5 sometime next week, and none of these videos are going to appear until such time. So by the time you're watching this, I'll already have the D5, and I'll probably be putting some videos together on how it compares in terms of driving back, because I'll be driving back through the mountains, actually with my mum, which is another story. Mum's coming to visit. So anyway, so that's going to happen within the next week, and then we'll start, I'm not really sure whether anybody's absolutely fantastically interested in my D5 videos, and I suppose we'll just have to take it from there. But there's a lot of crossover between Land Rover and the Land Rover Discovery and the Land Rover Defender in terms of wheels and other such things, and modifications somewhat similar. So maybe it'll interest folk and maybe it won't. Perhaps you can leave some comments to let me know if you'd be interested in me starting to make some videos on the D5, or if you couldn't care less, I suppose. But anyway, let me know what you think, and we'll take it from there really. The vehicle I've bought is quite vanilla. I mean, it's a bargain, it's not a bargain basement, but it's a D5, and it's just vanilla, there's no tonic. And there will be a process where I not necessarily turn it into this, but certainly make it a bit more usable in terms of the kinds of functionality that I need for the work that I do. As you've probably seen before, I do use these vehicles quite hard, and the D5's not going to have an easy life just because it's a D5. So we'll see how we go with that. And there are 2 more videos that I've already recorded that I'm going to release when the D5 arrives. One of them discusses the remains of the warranty, the result of the warranty debacle with Finn, and you'll probably have determined that it didn't go very well in virtue of the fact that I've bought a D5. So that should tell you something. But anyway, one of the videos will discuss exactly what's gone on and why it is that I've ended up buying a D5. And another one is regarding the fuel economy of this particular vehicle, which I have had some comments on in some forums and groups, and so I wanted to respond to that in probably what I intend to be a short video, but will likely be a long one. Anyway, that's basically where we are. So thank you very much for tuning in. Do let me know if you want me to keep adding content on the D5 as I develop that vehicle, and then we'll take it from there, and perhaps we can continue to provide content, and we'll see how we go anyway. So thank you very much for tuning in. See you next time. Cheerio.